was it like, stepping in there with a guy like Wanderlei Silva? What was it like, looking across the cage from a guy like Wanderlei Silva?
Well, Wanderlei Silva was my hero before I was in the UFC. Back in the day when I had just started at Team Quest, and I was training with Randy Couture and Matt Lindland. I used to catch the bus across town. There was an old Japanese toy store, and he used to rent me the.
We lost you there for a second, Chris. You're good now.
Sorry about that.
All right, you're good. No
he
problem.
Used to rent me the Pride videos, that were dubbed from Japan, and so in the beginning of my career, I tried to emulate Wanderlei. He was really a hero of mine. So ultimately, I wanted that fight. I had asked Dana White for that fight, and he was like, "No, you're not fighting Wanderlei. Da da da. He's too good for you. Blah blah blah." And then ultimately, Wanderlei was supposed to fight Okami. Or wait, God, I forget all the guys I fought now.
Oh, Sexyama? Akiyama.
Yeah, Akiyama. There we go.
Which was one of the most epic fights of all time when you finished him with that triangle, man. I think it was in the third round. I was going nuts in that fight when I was watching you fight, man.
And if anybody's wondering why I can't remember his name, just watch the fight.
Yeah.
So I ended up fighting a guy named Aaron Simpson 2 weeks prior, and then they called me last minute when Wanderlei pulled out to fight Akiyama. Pretty sure thinking I would lose that fight, thinking that would be good. I was coming off a win. So for Akiyama to beat me, that would be a good way to bring him into the UFC and kind of propel his stardom before his fight with Wanderlei. But ultimately, it didn't work out for him. I ended up getting that triangle. And so then, I really started lobbying for the Wanderlei fight. Hey, he was supposed to fight Wanderlei. Now it's my turn. So ultimately, I ended up getting that fight. And you know what? It was one of the few fights I really expected to lose going into it.
Wow.
It's funny how that works. Fear is a pretty motivating thing. So my preparation for Wanderlei was more on point than probably any other fight. I did all my work. It's scary the way that guy finishes people. So you want to be trained when you get in there. And I think ultimately it worked out in my favor.
Well, you know what? It was scary the way that you finished him. You know what I mean? The way that you finished him and the way that you finished a lot of your opponents was scary. One fight that was one of my favorite fights of all time, Terry Martin. You remember that Terry Martin fight where he tags you with a couple of shots and he's looking at you and he's like, "What's up? What's up? Bring it." And he's coming at you and you were just like a zombie, man. You ate those punches like you always do. You ate him and then just touched him and put him out. How was it taking him out in that moment?
What's that?
How was it like in that moment when you took him out? Like what was that feeling like, man, when you dropped him?
When I watched the video, I looked pretty pumped up, but honestly, like I don't really remember too much because at that point in the fight, I was already on autopilot. A couple of those fights, I remember the Akiyama fight. After the fight was over, walking backstage, I turned to my coach and I said, "What was that, about halfway through the second round?" And he's like, "No, man, there was 10 seconds left in the third."
Man.
But at that point, you're just on try to stay alive mode. And so definitely with that Terry Martin fight, that was definitely the case,
Yeah, that was
the MMA fortune teller.
The teller.